All right, this is the Big Douglas Show. We are live on a Tuesday. It is Wizards time today. Fellas, Big Pooh, Domo, glad to have y'all on today.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, man. I'm happy to be here. Like I said, I always check y'all work, man, and y'all put on, man. Y'all definitely put on. So I'm glad to be here so I could talk my little stuff, man.
Pooh, I was surprised that you had to be all over the place defending carrot cake yesterday. That was not something I expected.
That wasn't see even Hank know he know what
Hank
time it
knows.
is. Nah, I wasn't expecting that either, man. I saw the carrot cake slander going on and I just couldn't allow it. And then I got into a lengthy back and forth with a gentleman over red velvet cake.
Please tell the people about Red Velvet Cake, Pooh.
Yeah, this gentleman didn't realize he kept referring to the real velvet cake, real red velvet cake, that they make, well, that his mother makes and down in Alabama and Louisiana and such. And he kept telling me I never had the real red velvet. I'm like, listen, bro, my mom bakes. My father was a baker for 20 plus years. I've had the real red velvet. And then, because my thing, I had put up the comment, slide remark, was like, oh, it's nothing but chocolate cake with red food coloring. And he was like, you ain't had the real thing. I'm like, listen, bro, it's not chocolate cake, but it contains cocoa powder. And he didn't want to believe me. And then finally, after many back and forths, because it wasn't an argument, so I don't want to call it that. But I said, ask your mother, does she put unsweetened cocoa powder in the cake? And he came back, yeah, she put a little bit in there. That's all I was trying to say, bro. I know what the cake contains. That's all I'm trying to say.
People act like that red velvet cake is like some mystery concoction that
It is to them. Because my whole thing was this: is like, what color is flour? What color is sugar? What color is the butter? What color are the eggs? Nothing is red that you're putting into this cake. How does that cake get red? And he couldn't tell me. And that was the thing. It was like, I'm not. The taste is the taste. The real is the real. Obviously, it's the difference between homemade and store-bought. I'm never referring to store-made cake when I'm discussing cake, but it's cocoa powder in that red velvet Playboy. that's
Pooh, before we start talking basketball, what is the best cake?
I mean, it's subjective, but my favorite cake is carrot cake. Like, it's carrot cake. I love carrot cake. That's my favorite cake to make. I can eat a whole cake if I make one. It took everything in me not to make one yesterday. I actually do have the ingredients. I forgot I have carrots in my house. But it's carrot cake or it's I'm a pineapple upside down guy. I know people don't really take to that cake because it's too sweet once you get to the pineapple part.
Yeah.
But that's me. I love the super sweetness of it. 7-Up pound cake guy.
I just had that the other day. Very interesting there with the 7-Up.
Yeah.
I'm a big pound cake guy. Angel food cake. Love that.
Yeah. I do a couple of different pound cakes. I do a carrot cake. Not really a baker, but I dabble a little bit on the cake part.
Dilma, had you expected that we'd open up with cake discussion today? Were you prepared
I
for the
didn't,
cake
but
talk?
I didn't, but I swear, man, my wife is like a master baker. Like, this is all she do all day is talk sweets, look at sweets on Instagram, and she just be putting these concoctions together, man. Like, she did a couple weeks ago, she did like a Cinnabon pound cake. Man, it was.
Yeah, I'm going now. I've got some research to do after the show.
Now I'm intrigued. Now I'm intrigued.
So you talk about full-time bake. Like, are you guys watching all the baking shows? Are you on the British Bake Off and all these things?
Yeah, she loves sweets. Period. Like, but yeah, she can bake her ass off, man. And she'll just find stuff she'll see and then like make these weird mad scientist concoctions, man. And they always be bomb.
Because that
you sound like a lucky man.
Yeah,
scientist, bro. I tell people like I'm a cooker, not a baker.
Yeah.
Because cooking you can do with feel. baking is math and science. I hate those two subjects. So I don't do a lot of baking.
Yeah. When you're doing the cooking, there's a lot of dashes and sprinkles involved.
Yeah. No measurements. I don't use measurements when I'm cooking. I eyeball everything. You can't do that when you're baking.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as the football season unwinds, I start paying more and more attention to the basketball team. The Wizards are at 500. They started off super hot. They have not been that way before. Pooh, since last season, we were asking for more defense and better three-point shooting. We've gotten neither. So I don't tell me, please, what happened? Everybody on the planet knew. They hired the coach to get better defensively. Or do we just not have good defensive players on the team?
No, we have too many players on the team. They showed their hand already. I don't really prefer listening to Drew Gooden call games, but he says this one statement that's true. He's like, "You don't show me your hand already." And in them first 13 games, they showed their hand. Like, they can be a good defensive team. I think the problem came when players started returning, and time, playing time started, getting crazy for the team. It's just too many players. And trying to satisfy all of the different players and nobody can get into a rhythm. And then we actually have the type of players, unfortunately, that their lack of shots goes to their effort on defense. So if they're not getting their shots or they're not getting their playing time to get them in rhythm, it affects their defense. And that's what we're seeing, because they can't stop a parked car right now. Jason Tatum came out there, and Jason Tatum looked like he was at practice, man. Like, he missed 23s in a row, and then he banged you for like 8 or 9. Like, so I just think that Tommy has to consolidate. He got to consolidate fast and figure out who's going to be on this team and who isn't. And then that way West can get back to, a real rotation, and players can get their roles redefined. And because we started seeing it. Me and Domo talked about this on Twitter. Like, we started seeing it. That Utah game, perfect example. You had your clear number 1 in Beal, who was running point. You had your clear number 2 in Kyle Kuzma, who also was bringing the ball up the floor. Like, they need that hierarchy. They need roles defined, and that needs to be it. A team that does it well, they don't have all the talent in the world. I mean, they have talent, but not all the talent in the world. Memphis. Everybody plays their roles. Nobody tries to do anything different. If you rebound, you rebound. If you shoot threes, you shoot threes. If you shoot mids, you shoot mids. Like, and they win without a lot of star power because everybody plays their roles. So the Wizards got to consolidate and put people in their roles. And if you don't want to play your role, then you can go on somewhere else. Like, it's that simple.
Facts, man.
Domo, we've gotten to the point where Daniel Galford's playing 10 minutes a game. And we knew when the big man came, the big man came back, that some of the minutes go down, but to 11 minutes a game seems incredible. I'm not sure what the point is.
Yeah, like he's a young player, right? He's only 23, so he's got some learning to do. But I love that if you look at his kind of advanced numbers as far as shot blocking, man, he's up there with like Rudy Gobert as a rim protector. But the problem is, he's the kind of guy that, like, he's not bulky, so he's easily moved out of his spot. And, he's rough around the edges with how he controls his limbs. Like, he it's like he was a late bloomer. Like, he grew to 7 feet, like, a couple years ago, and was like, oh, I got this body. How do I use it? So, he kind of gets into foul trouble bad, and he jumps for a lot of pump fakes. His pick and roll defense is not really all the way there. And they got him playing like this drop coverage where, you go over the screen and he just all the way in the paint, just looking like, and, it's easy for guys just to pull up for threes, pull up jumpers on him because there's no resistance. So, but they gotta let him play through those mistakes. They gotta let him grow, man. Like you just paid him, you just gave him the extension, so you can't trade him. You gotta let him play through it, man. Unless you're trying to showcase some guys. So, which goes back to Pooh point. What we doing here, man? It's time to consolidate. So.
And so, who is on the list of available players at the trade deadline for you, Pooh?
Anybody but Bradley Beal and Gafford. Somebody asked the question. I can't remember his name. He asked the question on Twitter the other day. He was like, "Who would you move in a trade?" I was like, "Anybody that's going to get me another All-Star player back." Like at this point, I mean, and I'm not going to lie. I have Kyle Kuzma trending towards to hold. He's on the controllable salary for the next couple of seasons. He's reverting back to the Kyle Kuzma that we saw before Bron came to LA.
Who I was higher on. He could play.
Yeah, 6'10", 220.
Yep.
When he playing like he's 6'10", 220, he's a different type of player. And he's not scared to take the shots. He's going to take the shots. He's going to, he's going to make some mistakes too, but number 3 makes plenty. So it's one of them things where I'll hold on to them 3. I mean, Gafford, you got to kind of hold on to. And anybody else is for the pickings, man. Like, if Sabonis is on the table, who you want? Like,
correct.
Pick who you want.
Yeah.
If Jeremy Grant's on the table, I'm gonna be a little bit more picky about who I decide to let go. But it's all about who's on the table for me. I just know Brad obviously isn't going anywhere. Gafford isn't going anywhere, and I would hold on to Kuzma with all my might, because he's actually shown he can work with Brad. He can when the rotation is tight, he knows what his role is. I mean, he's the leading rebounder on the team, and he actually has the ability to be a two-way player. He doesn't play defense correctly all the time, but he has the ability to be a two-way player, and he can guard multiple positions. So if he gets switched off onto a guard or a big or whatever, he can play either one. So I will hold those 3, and everybody else can get it.
It's amazing to me because we've had this conversation about Bradley for years now, and it seems like everybody that covers the sport had told us trade him away, rebuild it, add draft picks, but they're not doing that. They were never going to do that. Bradley was going to always sign the contract. So anybody that, Alexander in the chat here is talking about trading Beal, just don't have that conversation anymore, right? That's why you and I barely have it, because he was never getting moved and we knew it.
Beal would have been gone this summer if Golden State was willing to trade away picks, Wiseman.
That was the rebuild package.
Whoever. Like, they was ready to give him up for Beal, and Beal wanted to stay. It was his choice. He wanted to stay. And once that happened, I was like, I figured they knew beforehand, but once that happened for me, I knew Beal was here to stay. Like, and Beal said it. He said as much. He said the grass isn't always green on the other side, meaning I'm not going to have the carte blanche if I go somewhere else that I have here. Because if I go somewhere else, I'm going to be a 2 or a 3 option. Here, I am the option. So, listen, man. Brad is here to stay. This is how Ted operates. He isn't going anywhere. You have to start thinking like Ted, not like yourself. Like, that's where people be getting so frustrated. Like,
right.
You're thinking like somebody who, from a reputable organization. Ted said they wouldn't trade Wall. We knew Ted was lying when they said they wouldn't trade Wall.
Totally different circumstances there.
Once again, think like Ted. But this isn't a well-run organization. Okay? And I'm not talking about the people aren't great or for whatever. No, we're not talking about that. This isn't a well-run organization. I looked it up. 5 players that's been drafted by this organization since the championship in 78 that remained on this team. Not, like Rip Hamilton and other players that
Rasheed,
Rasheed Wallace was drafted here and then
Weber.
they went somewhere else and became all-star. 5 players that were drafted here and stayed here have been all-stars since 1979, man. 5.
Right, man.
It's incredible. That is
So
incredible.
sad, man. Like, it's depressing. That's so depressing.
And this is the organization that you want to flip Bradley Beal for picks, which probably would be at the bottom of the draft, but for picks and start over and rebuild and go through the process like Philly. Do y'all remember how long it took Philly?
Trust the process.
Do y'all remember how long they went through Nerlens Noel? They went through Jahlil Okafor. They went through a lot of players.
Williams.
They went through 2 years of Embiid being hurt. They went through a year of Ben Simmons being hurt.
Yep.
They went through all of that to get to where they are now. And Ted ain't got the stomach for that. He ain't got the stomach for that.
No, and the 2 guys they've drafted recently, I like them, but I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the trajectory is on those guys. Domo, you have a feel for where those guys are headed?
I don't see much like I thought when Rui came out, like I hated the pick initially, like on draft day, because I wanted Cam Reddish. But then when I watched some of his FIBA play, I was like, oh, okay, this dude got some pull-up 3 game to him. He got some bounce to him. So I kind of comped him to like Tobias Harris, right? But that's not a guy that you like hold on to by no means, like untradeable, can't move him to upgrade your roster. And then Denny, I felt like I didn't like that pick. I felt like it was kind of a reach. I felt like Tyrese Halliburton was the go there. Like, he's showing it there with Sacramento. He's probably their best player now. But Denny, to me, kind of like a Nick Batum, Boris Diaw, like just kind of do a little bit of everything, can pass a little bit, defends well. He'll at some point get to a league average shooter, but I don't think he's ever going to be like lights out like a Hedo Turkoglu, or people was comparing him to like Gordon Hayward and stuff. Like those are elite shooters. I don't see that with Denny. So he's another guy that I'm just like, he's nice. He's not a bust, but he's not somebody that I'm setting up as like a franchise pillar, cornerstone piece.
What happened to Spencer Dinwiddie? I mean, he got here and was playing, and I'm not really sure what's happening.
Man, I think it's just simple as him and Bill don't mesh on the court, man. I know Bill advocated for him to be here, or be on, and come to DC. Here, right? And he wanted to go to DC
for sure,
but it's just not working for some reason. You can see it, and it's not even when you stagger their minutes. Like it doesn't even work that way. It literally only works when Bill is gone. Like when Bill isn't there, it's almost like he turns into super defer man when Bill is there. And I just think at this point we've seen enough to know that unless they're just saying, listen, man, we're gonna wait this thing out, to next season or whatever. But I think we've seen enough to know that pairing is just not a good fit for some odd reason. And it feels like it's more Spencer Dinwiddie than it's Bradley Beal that has the issue. So, and plus, once Bradley Beal had to play point guard, it showed us something different about Bradley Beal. And while
because you like Brad point guard, right?
I love Brad at point guard. While he still has to work on them turnovers, I love him at point guard because he can still get his shot anytime he wants. But now it engages him in the rest of the game in a way to a higher heightened sense. I know he's played, I forgot how many games where he's had over 5+ assists, but it forces him to be a little bit more dialed in on that end.
Yeah.
So
more possessions off.
Yeah. Plus, it also allows them to get in a Corey Kispert more, who plays great team basketball. On both ends, both ends. So I like Brad at point, and I think they need to lean into that. Like,
what would be your preference for the starting 5?
Brad, Kyle, Gafford. I put Kispert in there. He's shown as a starter. He's much better as a starter than coming off the bench. and that small forward spot is that's a doozy.
Because I thought it was good. I liked KCP when he was a part of that package, and thought he could play. He's been awful.
He's so volatile, man. Like you get 4 for 6 KCP playing, elite defense, or you get side of the backboard KCP,
right?
Dribbling it off his leg.
They can't cover a switch.
Right. Can't cover nobody. So I think he's too volatile, but that's Bill's best friend. So it's like, you're gonna put him on the bench. What type of locker room issue is that gonna create if you do that?
Yeah, the thing with, even if you continue to start KCP, the thing about KCP, his minutes, like, he doesn't. Well, I don't know how many minutes he plays, but the way they set up his minutes in the rotation, it leaves a lot of subs still coming in. So I think they need to Wes and crew need to get better at, if KCP is having a bad game, he need to be on the bench at the end of the game.
Well,
that's my only issue. I don't have an issue with him starting. I don't have an issue with him playing. But if this isn't one of them good KCP games, put him on the bench at the end of the game. Like, we don't need him in there.
It early.
Shooting balls off the side of the backboard. What somebody said when they when Joseph Blair was coaching and they lost the game, they had 2 timeouts left. It was like, when KCP went into ISO mode, you should have called a timeout. Like,
right.
You never won KCP dribbling more than 2 times. Like, if you're doing anything but dribbling into a pull-up jumper, kick the ball out. So I mean, I could deal with KCP starting in that lineup. Like I said, you just got to know, if he's not on, limit his minutes. Yeah. If he's on,
did you have Rui in that 5?
No, not yet. Rui's still not all the way back.
Just because he's not in shape yet.
Yeah, he's still not all the way back
yet. He's not all the way back.
Yeah,
I think the problem with KCP starting, though, is like, I think they give up too much size on the perimeter. Like you saw with Tatum, man. Like, that's a 6'8", 6'9" dude with handle and pull up game. Like, 6'5" KCP is not going to have any resistance against that. A 6'3" Bradley Beal, no resistance to that. 6'5" Dinwiddie coming off ACL, like, that's food, man. Like, that's barbecue chicken. I know Tatum was like, yeah, this is my get right game right here. I'm about to get 60. Like, because it's just, who's the resistance? The only guy that I'm worried about if I'm Tatum is Kuzma on the switch out. And I can screen him off. But, like, I just think they need to go with a bigger lineup. Beal at point guard. I would go Beal, Kispert, Denny, Kuzma, Gafford. Just go big. So everything you switching, it's no liability there. Like, I know Kispert is not the best defender, but he ain't out there giving up size where it's just an easy, I'm going to shoot over top of you because you 5-6 inches shorter than me.
I like Kispert because Kispert has shown that he's more times than not going to be in the right spot on the help. More times than not, he's going to be in the right spot when he manned up. Now, does he have the lateral quickness and all that? No, he doesn't. But he's going to be in the right spot more times than not, and that's all that's more than what is going on now. You know what I mean? So,
right,
like, be in the right spot. He helped spread the offense out on obviously on the offensive side of the ball. He's not just a shooter. Like, that's been the most impressive thing with Kispert for me. When he tried to go in there and yam on somebody, I was like, okay, this guy's different. Like, he's showing the world he's not Davis Bertans part 2.
Thank God for that.
So, yeah.
Now, what we want and what we get rarely are 2 things that are the same. Do you want them to be active at the trade deadline? Do you think they'll be active at the trade deadline?
I think Tommy knows he has to be. It's a reason why when Wes started saying the 11-man rotation is a plan, that's when something is up. Like, who plans for 11-man rotation? Who plans for your starting center to only play the first 5-6 minutes of the first and second half and then don't see the court again?
Right.
It's a plan for real. So I think he knows he has to consolidate this team. He has to move pieces around as best as he can. And Is Grant. I think it's Sabonis is the one. That's the top trade. That they're going after, and I think Grant is B. I think they'll probably be able to get Grant before they can get Sabonis, but that's not stopping them from trying.
Yeah, they gotta do something, man. Like I feel like Chris Miller kind of let the cat out the bag last night. Like he was just like, it's time. It's time to trade some guys that's trying to consolidate this roster, go to a 9-man rotation because so many guys playing, you can't get in a rhythm. Like if you like you said with Gafford, 6 minutes in the first quarter, 6 minutes in the third quarter, that's it. Like how is he going to impact the game? That's wasted time. So they gotta make a move. What I don't want is for Tommy to kind of sit on his hands because it's like, oh, I already know Bradley Beal not turning down this $60 million, so I don't really have to do nothing right now because I'm locking Bradley Beal locked up anyway. So we could just go through this season and we can look at it again in the summer or next season. And I just don't think time is ticking, man. Like he can't take this year for granted, man. Like the East is deep, but I feel like it's a lot of parity where it's not no real like juggernaut at the top. Like I guess you could say the Bucks, defending champion, but like the Nets, they kind of getting up there in age, injury. You don't know what Kyrie gonna show up. The moon, the stars align right if he don't want to play. So, it's opportunity out there. The Bulls, all types of injuries, man. Like it's opportunity out there to go really, make some noise in the playoffs, man. And it's a matter of whether you go out there to take the risk to make that move.
Are we expecting too much out of a team that's got a first-year head coach? That is a first-time head coach.
I think that 10-3 start kind of it kind of set things off, in a way. Once again, they showed their hand, they showed what they were capable of, and regardless of who they were playing, when you come out the gate like they came out the gate, it shows you that something is there. What happened after that, I don't think it's basketball. I think what happened after that became personal. With the players, and it became mental, with certain players. But they showed like his system works on both sides of the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like they because they still weren't hitting shots at the beginning of the season. They were just playing phenomenal defense. So I think, like I said, once the roster's consolidated, you got to move a few pieces. You got to, solidify your 8-9-man rotation and go from there. And then it's like, okay, this is what it is. Y'all know what it is. These are your roles for everybody in that rotation. And if you're not out here playing defense, you got to come sit by me. Like that's the, I know it's a lot easier for college coaches to do that than it is in the NBA because you have so many different things that play a part in these decisions. But that kind of has to be the thing. It's like, listen, if I see you out there, slacking on defense, you gotta come sit by me because defense. That was what had us on that win streak earlier in the season was defense. It wasn't offense. It was defense. So. I don't give into the first year head coach thing, and if they would have started off the season 3-10, we could have been talking about that, but they didn't. So I just think it's a thing of players. Like I said, players just allowing their lack of offensive game or lack of offensive touches or lack of playing time or whatever to influence what they're doing on the defensive end, and they're kind of blase blah on that end of the floor for most times. Well, until the fourth quarter, then they like to tighten up.
They want to tighten up. Yeah. I try not to kill Wes, man, because he is a first-time guy, first-time head coach. But I think Q had mentioned this, man. He said, it's no former players on this staff. So from a credibility standpoint, you got a guy like Wes coming over that's just trying to run, by the book, X's and O's. He got his script up, dialed up for how he wants stuff run. And you got a lot of vets on this team that kind of been around the block. And so, like, when stuff not working, because even on that 10-3 stretch, there was some rumblings and complaints about the offensive flow. It looked real clunky. Like they were missing shots, but they weren't really generating clean shots either. And that was also then too when we was pretending that Dinwiddie was the second option on the team. But they were playing defense. They were locking in. We had Denny throwing up the X, all of that. It was feeling good, but I think scouting reports catch up. Teams see what you do well and don't do well, and they adjust. And I don't think we've really countered on that defensive end. And like you were saying, when guys missing shots still and they not getting touches, that affects how they want to guard on the other end. So they got to be held accountable for that, man. Like you said, if they ain't guarding, man, they got to be on the bench. But West got to do better with these rotations because you can't say that you want defense, but then you playing guys like Raul Neto high minutes. Like, he's food, man.
Davis Bertans.
Like, you got Bertans at center.
And Montrezl Harrell was a all-star the first 13 games.
Yeah, for sure.
He was.
And I don't even.
Yeah. But he's another one. He's another one. And he ain't getting his touches. He started pouting. All of a sudden, that pick and roll defense looking like Swiss cheese, man. Like, so he's another one. Like, they got to get some more. I feel like they need some more Denny's on the team. That guys is just going to get in there and just play hard, play defense, and they're not looking for shots. But, that's on Tommy.
Well, it's frustrating. I hope they are big players at the trade deadline. It feels like I hope that every year, and we rarely see it. Dumbo, tell the folks where they can find you and what you got coming up next.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter all the time, man. It's at Damo8186, man. I'm on the Wizards podcast, man. Wizards of Gallery Place podcast with my man Brendan, man. We got some stuff cooked up coming down the pipeline, with this trade deadline hitting, and then hopefully a playoff run. So, yeah, it should be fun.
He is literally on Twitter talking Wizards all day. Because when I wake up, the first thing I do when I get on my phone is go check his timeline to see if anything's happened. And if nothing's happened, then I go look at all of the stats he's putting up. Because I'm not a stat geek. Like I'm admittedly not a stat geek, but I'll go look to see, like, okay, what we talking about today. So great follow. That's probably one of my best follows in the past 12 months was following you, bro. Like straight up and down.
No doubt. That's why I was glad we could get him on today. All right, fellas, I appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. Y'all have a good one.
You too.
All right.